Welcome to UNCAGED. Today we're speaking with Marilyn Weinstein. I'm excited to get into a topic that seems to be in every conversation that I have these days. Marilyn is the CEO of Vivo Inc. Vivo Inc. has a really great kind of tagline of beyond staffing, a partner for transformation and growth. And so it's no surprise to you that we'll be talking a lot today about talent management, what's happening with recruiting, what's happening with retaining good talent. And Marilyn's got all of the answers for us, hopefully. But before we get there, Marilyn, tell us a little bit about you and your career.
All right. Well, thanks for having me. Let's see, founded Vivo 17 years ago. Before that, I was a attorney. So I always call myself a recovering lawyer now. Obviously, keep my practice and my license current, but I don't practice. In between all of that, or during all of that, I raised 3 boys, and my husband is a stay-at-home dad, thankfully. So he took care of them. They're now one away at college, one home at college, a senior in high school. And when I'm not doing all of that, I am an avid fitness enthusiast, love my new love of Muay Thai.
Oh, wow. How cool. Well, that's very interesting. But I mean, Vivo has been really that pillar for the last 17 years. And tell me a little bit about the Vivo story. How did it evolve and what are you guys up to now?
Vivo was born out of the idea that this looks easy. I can open a company. How hard would that be? Famous last words that I'm sure a lot of people had. Opened with a partner and had to split from that partnership. So found myself the CEO, and found out pretty early on that that meant I was responsible for everything. And the most important thing of that has been creation and retention of our brand. And we do everything centered around that. But obviously there were some, wrinkles along the way while we ironed it out.
Yeah, so now Vivo is focused on really kind of talent consulting. Tell me more about what are the specific areas that you play in?
We are strongest in IT, or arguably IT. So everything in the technology space, mid to senior level. We have contractors and consultants who are on projects for years and years at a time. Some start on a 3-month project and 3 years later are still there. Really strong in process, in infrastructure, and in business applications.
And, it's been a really, I'd say the only way to perhaps describe this is a roller coaster ride. Maybe you could say a hurricane, I don't know, but a roller coaster ride in terms of a talent management over the last 3-4 years. Tell me a little bit about, what that ride's been like and where we are today.
Sure. So in 2019, when the COVID, pandemic first started coming to light, and we found out that we were going to have this 1 month, 2 week, 3 week, 1 month period of time where everybody had to go back home and work just from home. That's what we all assumed it was. And we actually thought that would be catastrophic for our company because we have a lot of clients who prefer everybody to work on site. So we thought they'd furlough them. But instead, as 3-4 years later, the shift was for everybody to just be allowed to do their work remotely. So what happened then was it became a evening out, no longer a distinction for a company to offer remote work. And that was one of the biggest shifts we saw. That used to be your ace in the hole if you were having trouble finding the right resources. Hey, we offer remote work. So we took that away. And then the next thing that happened from that is globalization versus localization when it came to cost centers. So, a client who used to say to us, hey, can you find somebody in a lower cost market and we'll let them work remote, no longer has that advantage. So all of a sudden, the physicality of where a person was located became both most relevant and least relevant, depending on who the client was and what they were looking to do. So it's been a really, really strange couple of years.
I love the way you just described that, because I don't think I'd had really thought about that last point closely enough. Although, I mean, certainly, my businesses, we've done the same thing where we've hired everywhere, right? And we now find ourselves literally managing quite a different kind of HR approach, really. I mean, we have to, because one of the big changes is that you have to be registered in every state, right? You have to pay payroll tax everywhere, right? So
Oh, that's the fun part for sure.
There are a whole bunch of changes that happen in that process. But, now we're at this moment where you read about some of the big banks asking their employees to move back a couple of days of the week. Some companies, I think there was a big story about Grindr. I guess they had like 45% of their staff quit when they demanded them go back to the office. What's happening right now? Where are we?
So one of the things you'll notice post-pandemic, whether it's in the hiring spot or just managing your people all together, collaboration, innovation, people have got to go back to basics. Companies have got to go back to basics and remember these very important, crucial part to anything, which is change management. So, everybody's answering everything with a quick Band-Aid approach, and then they're having to change courses and reverse themselves because that didn't work. Change management, whether you're moving everybody to fully remote or moving people back to in-office part of the time, it's a process. And if you ignore that, it fails and people quit, or it fails and your product or service fails.
I'm going to kind of ask a wrinkle question here on this one, because one of my thoughts has been, it is very much described right now as that black and white issue, right? Either you're not in the office or you are in the office. And then you have, I guess, some of the versions of it in between. But, what I find a lot of times is people are warning us against making strong dictates. What's your take on that, just for leaders out there? Yeah.
2023 has brought us the employee driving the decisions to some extent, right, wrong, or indifferent. So before you do a mandate, you need to understand the culture at your particular company. You also need to take the pulse and decide a little bit more about why you're mandating. Is productivity down or is trust down? What could you do to improve either of those? I often say, if you didn't trust your employees to work from home, that's an internal problem. That's a management issue that you need to rectify. But if you think just moving them to the office is going to lead to some greater trust, you're incorrect. Right. If it's a productivity issue, then again, is adding 2 to 4 hours of a commute to somebody's time and filling their day with in-person meetings. Again, this is the argument against. Is that going to be the answer to productivity, or should you answer your productivity issues irrespective of the on-site, off-site, hybrid discussion?
Yeah, no, it's a really way of framing it. And I living this question every day right now, Marilyn, so it hits close to home. But I mean, when I look at this career you've had, 17 years at Vivo, really working with companies and people and trying to figure out these issues, I have to ask, I mean, there's clearly a passion for this space that you have, and it may have started, casually, but somehow it's grown. Tell me what kind of keeps that fire in your belly.
Yeah, great question. Sometimes I wonder if I actually know it myself or if I'm just plain crazy. But, it turns out how much we here love what we do has actually led to our success so much. We love hearing a client break down their actual problem, not what HR asked them to write down in a job spec, but really what are they trying to solve for? And then us going through our network to figure out the person who is ideal for that. It's absolutely, there's just nothing better. And then seeing the fruits of the labor and watching our people succeed at different major clients throughout the world, it's the best.
Yeah, like helping them move to that next phase or to a better phase or a better place, etc. I can only imagine how rewarding that must feel.
The first time a client ever told me how much time they had wasted before using Vivo was how we actually shaped our brand and realized that's it. That's what we do. we get right to the bottom of it, and we listen well, and we get to the heart of it, and we solve the problem instead of wasting time. That's where our passion really lies.
That's amazing. And you mentioned also that you work a lot in the technology space, IT space. And like all of the different business verticals these days, IT seems to be going through dramatic shifts. There's a lot of talk about machine learning and AI. Are you finding that there are specific topics like that that are becoming kind of main topics for these folks?
Absolutely. I mean, if you're not talking about AI in any meaningful way, you're probably not dealing with technology at all. There's some interesting arguments or fears, and there's definitely some time to put some framework and guidance around all that it can do as well. But if you think of it just from as an employer, how many of your menial operational tasks you could automate using AI, the future is about to be insane with what we could do.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I remain excited about the possibilities. And as someone who's done a bit of work in the space, I know how early we are still. So there's still quite a bit of change ahead of us, which is, I think, for me, very exciting, actually, very, very exciting. So we'll see how it shapes. But Marilyn, as you look out over the next year, I think people always want to understand, are there jobs out there? The economy's been this kind of weird cycle over the last couple of years. What do things look like, and what are they going to look like over the near future?
All right. So keeping in mind, if I had a crystal ball, the chances of me, still needing to work and being on this podcast would be a little bit different. But shaking mine up for you and just telling you what I see from the day to day. First of all, everything that was in limbo is going to be funded and move forward. So you're going to see a really big year next year, which is great. However, there's going to be floundering until companies figure out their physicality, their location for their employees. Is the right model fully remote? Is the right model fully in office? If it's hybrid, how? Who comes in when? Either way, though, taking a moment to look at this and remember that, again, what was broken now needs to be fixed. If you stay fully remote, that is great. But do you have the right tools for casual collaboration? Do you have the right tools for engagement? Do you have the right people for managing remote? Did you train your people? No time like the present. Get your managers trained up on how to manage a remote workforce. None of these issues will fix by themselves. They take deliberate, responsible, proactive measures.
Yeah, I've thought a lot about that. And Marilyn, honestly, the way you just described it, it's perfect. I think a lot about this as being kind of that perhaps a slight twist on the famous line of like, with great power comes great responsibility, but with like great freedom and flexibility comes quite a bit of responsibility. And so the question, I guess, for organizations is how they manage that and support it, right? Support it in a way that they can maintain the business going forward. Really interesting talking to you today, Marilyn, and thank you so much for being on the UNCAGED show. If someone wanted to learn more about what you and Vivo were up to, where should they go?
So our website is vivoinc.com. You can follow me on almost every social media platform. Connect with me on LinkedIn unless you're trying to sell me something. If so, just sell it to me. You don't have to connect with me. But like I said, I love what I do. And if there's somebody struggling in their career or to figure out their own resource management or how to solve the problem of, fixing what has been kind of stale for the last 3 years, just reach out. I'm happy to talk about it all day.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much again, Marilyn, for being on the show. We've been speaking with Marilyn Weinstein. She is the CEO of Vivo Inc. And, Vivo Inc. is a company very much focused on staffing, but also really all of the issues around partnering with companies on talent and talent transformation and working through those issues. And we've been talking a lot today about where we are. It's been a wild couple of years in the recruitment, talent management space, as the world has gone from a remote working world to, I don't know where we are now, somewhere of a hybrid space. And now people are looking forward to growth again. And Marilyn offered us really some great counsel today to be purposeful. Actually, no matter what you decide, whatever model you choose, be purposeful about it. Make sure that you're thinking about, if you are remote, make sure that you're facilitating that model with the right types of resources to make it successful. If you're bringing people together, be aware you're asking people to go back through a change in their lives. So really, really good advice, Marilyn. Thank you so much again, and we look forward to having you back.
All right, thanks so much. Great talking to you.